Yesterday we talked about how we're going to do the sodium bicarbonate wrap. And this is the wrap that we do to help people conquering cancer. It's quite an involved wrap, so we're going to do the whole setup in the break. And in this first lecture I'm going to talk about herbs, but the herbs I'm going to talk about are things that you probably have always seen as just weeds in the garden. And an important part of knowing about your weeds in the garden or your herbs is being able to identify them, but not only that, to know what you do with them, how you can use them and why they would help you, and in what area they would help you. So I'm going to start with one that I'm not going to touch, and you'll know why I'm not going to touch it, because it is stinging nettle. And I found this wonderful specimen this morning. Stinging nettle. Did you know that in the little cottage gardens when people first settled in, is that wind? When Australia was first settled, the English colonies, and they had gardens, they always had a bed of stinging nettle. And stinging nettle can be used for, in a stew. You can use it like spinach, and we want rubber gloves on it, really thick rubber gloves, and you cut it up and you put it in your stew. And as soon as it cooks, it limps. And when it limps, of course you've got no more of the prickly things, and also it annuls, so to speak, the stinging of it. But if you are weeding in the garden and the nettle does touch you, there is a remedy, and it is dock. And dock is the remedy for if you get touched by stinging nettle. And often you will find them growing together, which that was very nice of God to do, is to grow them together. And if you do touch the stinging nettle, and it certainly stings, I think one of the worst one I had one day, I was in my garden and there was a celery plant gone to seed. And I knew that it was going to take a lot of strength for me to pull this out. I'd already loosened it with a fork, so I grabbed it hard, knowing I'd have to pull it hard, and guess what was growing right next to it? Was stinging nettle. So it wasn't just a brush or a touch, it was a grab. Ah! Oh, that was a mighty sting, and it was all inside here, and it kills. Do you know the stinging nettle is the same as in the ants that sting? It's actually the same chemical. And I'm looking round and I saw it, and I grabbed it, and you just chew, spit out, because it's the juice of the dock. So I grabbed the dock and I chewed it and spit it out, and then I held my hand. Oh, it's incredible the relief that it gives. And if you really want to know the relief, you can come up and touch it, and then we'll quickly get the dock. But there's only a little bit of dock. But the juice in the dock will bring relief and negate the sting from the stinging nettle. So why would you use stinging nettle? Stinging nettle's roots go deeper than any other root. And because the roots go so deep, they are able to access minerals way down deep in the earth. The top plants can't actually access the minerals that the roots get if they're way down deep. So this stinging nettle, and you can almost tell because it is so dark green. You see, the darker the green, the higher the mineral content. So at Misty Mountain Health Retreat, we serve our guests breakfast like a king, and lunch like a queen, and tea like a pauper. And so the evening drink that we give our guests is broth, and we cook onions with the skin on it, and potatoes with the skin, and celery and all the celery leaves, and we slowly cook that for about 4 hours, and in the last half hour we'd put stinging nettle in. And for a maybe 5-6 litre pot, we'd put about that much stinging nettle in. And then before we serve it, we strain it. So all the minerals that are in all those vegetables and all the minerals that are in that stinging nettle go into the water. So I say to our guests, aren't you glad we don't ask you to eat stinging nettle? We just drink the water from it. So all the minerals that are in the plants are now in the broth. So we strain that. And what we strain out is basically not good for much because all the minerals are now in the water. And I know an old Aussie habit, the ladies used to cook their veggies on a Sunday and cook their roast, and then the water from the vegetables they would make their gravy with. That was because it gives a nice flavour. You know what the flavour is? The flavour is minerals. So before we serve our broth, we put a couple of spoons of Celtic salt in it, and our guests love that broth at night. It really is what women used to call stock, yeah? And they'd have their big old fuel stove and a big pot, and they'd cut up their carrots and put the tops and the ends in, and they cut up their onion and put the onion skins in. That's basically what we do. First 2 days at Misty Mountain Health Retreat are juicing days, so we just put the veggies together. But on the cooking days, there's always a broth pot in the kitchen, and when the parsley is being cut up, all the sticks from the parsley they put in the broth, and it's the best stock. So feel free to do that. Feel free to put your stinging nettle in, make a nice big broth pot, because then you can freeze it in little containers, and it's a great base for soups, great base for cooking your legumes, and a great evening meal is just having that cup or two of broth, very high in minerals. The nettle is also reported to help with the inflammation of the prostate gland. The nettle, being very, very high in minerals, is high in iron, so it's very good for people who are a little bit challenged with anemia. But the main cause of anemia is low hydrochloric acid, and tonight, in my lecture on the gut, I'm going to show you how you can boost hydrochloric acid levels to heal anemia, to help get that iron out of the food. So that's what you would use stinging nettle for. The next one we're going to look at is chickweed. And I found some very good specimens of chickweed. Now, chickweed looks very, very similar to radium. Yep, you probably can hardly see the difference there. So there is a way to tell the difference. And with the chickweed, it'll have one little rootstock, and the plant can spread right out about this big. In fact, if I've got chickweed in my garden, I know all I have to do is go underneath, find the root, and I've got all of that away. It'll spread out. Now, the identifying factor with chickweed, and you can come up in the break. Now, I don't know if you can see that, but when you break the chickweed stem, there's a thread in there. So that's held together because there's a little thread inside the stem. So that's the identifying factor with chickweed. And chickweed is a delightful herb. Feel free to come up and have a chew of the leaf. It is not bitter at all, so it's very, very nice in your salads. My first husband was a drug addict and an alcoholic, and I had 6 children in the rainforest, no electricity. Sometimes times were a bit tough and there was not a lot of money around. In fact, when times were tough, we ate lentils and chickweed, and we did very well. So the chickweed can be thrown in your soups and your stews, and all the minerals will go in there. But you can see how the leaf is not as dark as the stinging nettle. It still has some iron, it still has some minerals, but it has quite a shallow root. I don't think I picked any root there. But medicinally, the chickweed is an anti-itch herb. And I know when my children had contact with chickenpox or measles, the next few days we're weeding in the garden, and my daughter Emma would say, "Leave the chickweed, Mum, we're going to need that." And for measles, chickenpox, itchy things, you can pour boiling water on it, and the tea, when it cools, you can put into ice trays. So you've got chickweed tea ice cubes. And when someone has an itch, they get that out, and you know what ice will do to itch? So if ever you've got an itch, don't scratch it, because when you scratch an itch, it brings relief, but then what does it do? It's even worse. And if the scratching continues, the skin can break, and if the skin breaks, then an infection can come. Whenever you feel itch, grab an ice cube and just hit it. Now, the beauty of making chickweed tea ice cubes, you've got a double effect of not only the ice to kill the itch, but you've also got the herb. If someone has chickenpox, measles, you can make a bath and throw a heap of chickweed in the bath and they can bathe in the chickweed bath. Would you use it for a psoriasis? You certainly can. You certainly can. Now, psoriasis has a yeast aspect too, the rash on the skin. So you could warm up coconut oil in a double saucepan and you could put the chickweed in it. And you do that for probably about half an hour till the chickweed goes all limp and dark like it's cooked. And then you just pick the chickweed out. Now you've got chickweed ointment. And the coconut oil has an antifungal property, anti-yeast property. So that's an excellent ointment for things like eczema and psoriasis. You've got your anti-itch of the chickweed, and you've also got the antifungal property of the coconut oil. Can you see that? That will actually stay there. If I pull that hard, I can break that little inside thread. But that little thread in the middle is your identifying factor. So that's the main thing with chickweed. It can be eaten. It's got nice array of minerals in it, and it's anti-itch. Now, I have to tell you too that my children were exposed to chickenpox, measles 5 times, and they never got it. We'd get all the chickweed ready, and they would never get it. And I was talking to a naturopath one day. I said, it's really funny, my children keep getting exposed. Everyone gets it, my children don't. He said, I know why. He said, your children are running barefoot through the hills. They're eating all the food out of the garden, which is incredibly high in minerals and nutrients. He said, their bodies are functioning so well, it's not taking them down. He said, I wouldn't be surprised if your children did get it, but it was so mild that they didn't even know they had it. Isn't that interesting? That was his theory. Now let's have a look at this other one, and this is called radium. Radium's the one that looks like chickweed, and this is very different because it's just like a little tree. It doesn't spread out like the chickweed. And I was looking around, I thought that was quite a good specimen till I found this one, and you see it branches out. But as you can see, it's so similar, isn't it? So to identify it, you know that this is the radium because it grows like a tree, and that one spreads out. But the identifying factor is when you break it, can you see the white milk? There's a white milk there, and that white milk is an irritant. So don't put this one in your salad, okay? It's an irritant. Your husband will never forgive you. Now you see that white milk there, you can put that on a skin cancer and burn it out. You can put that on a wart and burn it out. You can put that on a mole and burn it out. It's an irritant. It'll irritate whatever you put it to. So what you can do is you can put a little bit of olive oil or coconut oil or pawpaw ointment, something like that, around the edge of the mole or wart or skin cancer, and just put that on the skin cancer, wart or mole. It'll flare up. It's an irritant. It's doing its work. It'll look terrible, but that's what it does. If you go and have a skin cancer burnt off from the doctor, it's going to look terrible, isn't it? It's just burning it out. So remember, this one is an irritant. Don't eat it. But you can irritate or burn out any little bits and pieces on your body that you'd like to burn out. So that's really the only thing that you would use the radium for. It's also called milkweed because of that little dot of milk that comes out. Obviously, the thicker the stem, the better milk that you will get. Now we're going to have a look at, here's another one. Now this is sorrel. And I'll draw the leaf. It's actually a bit pointy. So the identifying with sorrel is it has those two little lobes at the bottom, and sometimes it'll have another little dip there. So what we've already looked at is chickweed. We've also looked at radium. And remember, the chickweed's the nice one with the little thread, and the radium, that has the milk in it. And we've also looked at stinging nettle. A friend of mine is German, and he says that he makes stinging nettle salad. I said, "You make stinging nettle salad?" And what he does is he cuts it up really, really tiny. I've yet to eat it.
Is that you make nettle tea?
Yes, that's nettle tea.
That's nettle tea?
Yeah, nettle tea, and you'll find, if you find a mix for, say, the prostate, you'll often have nettle in it. And the other thing nettle is used for is it's high in iron. So often if people are anemic, they'll use nettle tea. If you get a herb book, you'll find many herbs have got a whole lot of things you can do, but I like to target the specifics because there are some herbs that are specifically better for certain things than others. Last night I talked about the hawthorn berry, and the hawthorn berry is a specific for the heart. Cayenne pepper is a specific for the blood, and that's good news. That means it can be used all over the body. In fact, in the book Curing with Cayenne, the author Sam Beiser, he says you can put cayenne pepper with other herbs to increase their potency. So you could put cayenne pepper with hawthorn berry to increase the hawthorn berry's action on the heart. And you can put cayenne pepper with something like cranberry, which will help to increase the cranberry's ability to help resolve UTI, or urinary tract infections. So what do you use sorrel for? Sorrel is one of those green herbs, and there are many of them, that is like a sweet bitter. So if you chew on the sorrel, it almost has a sweet aftertaste, but it's a slightly bitter. And all your bitter herbs are specifics for your liver. And all your green herbs are very high in chlorophyll. And chlorophyll is plant blood. And the molecular structure of chlorophyll is very similar to the molecular structure of human blood. Let me show you. So this is the molecular structure of human blood, and this is the molecular structure of plant blood, which is chlorophyll. So there's the plant and there's the human. Almost identical, almost. The middle molecule in plant is magnesium, and the middle molecule in human is iron. And that's why the green drinks, the green barleys, green smoothies, all your green plants, except for the radium, you can use to boost iron in the blood. Also, green juice, which is your plant blood, it's one of the most potent blood and tissue cleansers in the body. It cleanses the tissues. So sorrel, Throw it in your salads, it's quite nice. Buzz it up in your green drinks, very nice. Now there's one that you probably would not want to put in your green drinks, definitely not the radium, and that is dandelion. Now I was able to get quite a few different specimens of dandelion, and the way to identify dandelion is the line has sharp teeth. And so on the edge of the dandelion, there's very sharp edges. Now those edges don't look very sharp. I found this one right underneath a bush. And look at this leaf here. It hardly even looks like a dandelion leaf. But if you look closely, you can see those little edges. But I was able to find, it's got a bit of dirt in it. This one was near the front door. And can you see the leaves are very sharp there? And you would wonder if that and that was the same plant, wouldn't you? But you see, grown in different areas, this was more sun exposed and weather exposed, whereas this one was more underneath the bushes. So the identifying factors with the dandelion are these sharp corners. Remember, dandelion, the lion's teeth. So that's dandelion. Now there is another herb that looks very similar to dandelion. It's called catsia. Now with the dandelion plant will just shoot up one stalk with one flower, whereas the cat's claw will shoot up several stalks, and the stalk will divide and it'll have several flowers. I couldn't see a catsia, but I did. Ah, yes, I did. I found in the grass the dandelion stem. Now the dandelions, see, the dandelion and the catsia flower look very similar. They're both yellow, but the dandelion flower will be a little bit bigger, so you'll know which is which by the stem. And the dandelion stem is hollow. My children used to pick them and use them as straws. So the dandelion stem is hollow, and also the catsia stem is not. It's sort of more disjointed. And again, in fact, I'll draw a picture of it. We'll rub this one out. So with the dandelion, it's definitely, it's got the sharp leaves. And then you'll have lots of leaves here. And it'll just have one stem that'll go straight up, and it'll have the flower on top. Whereas the catsia, the leaves are more like this. They're more round, they're not sharp, but they're very similar. They have all the leaves around like that, but they'll have a stem that'll go like that, and they'll have the yellow flower on it like that. And sometimes they have another one that divides like that, and it'll have the flower up like that. Once you start looking, you'll be able to identify the difference. Another big difference between the cat's claw and the dandelion is not only the sharp edges, but dandelion is smooth, whereas cat's claw is a little bit furry. Now, as far as the east is from the west is the medicinal properties. Cat's claw, it's basically only good thing about it is it's a green plant. Whereas dandelion, lion is the king of the jungle, and I think dandelion is the king of the herbs in the garden, because dandelion is a bitter herb. If you were to bite it and eat it, it's very, very bitter. And you've heard the old saying, sweet to the mouth, bitter to the stomach. Sweet to the mouth, bitter to the stomach. Think of that with sugar. Sugar is sweet to the mouth but very bitter to the stomach. Whereas your bitter herbs like dandelion, they're bitter to the mouth but very sweet to the stomach, because it's the bitter herbs that stimulate the liver to release its digestive enzymes. And also the bitterness causes the stomach to release its digestive enzymes too. Dandelion is the liver herb. Your liver is a recoverable organ. It's the only organ in the body that has the ability to regrow or recover. That's why they can do a liver transplant on just a little bit of liver, and the liver will regrow. And I'm so glad that God made the liver a recoverable organ, because some of the things that people are doing to their body, in ignorance, mostly granted, if we didn't have a recoverable organ, some of us wouldn't even live past our 20s. But God, in His great wisdom and mercy, made the liver to be a recoverable organ. And these herbs help stimulate the liver to regrow and to recover. Cancer cannot get a hold on the body if the liver's working in optimum performance. And one liver herb that many people don't realise it is the lemon. So a great drink in the morning. Remember, you wake up, have your water, have another bit of water, and then when you come near the kitchen, have the kettle boiled and put juice of a lemon in some water with a little bit of boiling water on top, and have a warm lemon drink. Fantastic liver tonic early in the morning. Also, the lemon is an internal alkalizer, so that will do a few things too. Now, how can we eat this? How can we eat the dandelion? Well, there's a recipe in Europe. A friend of mine went through Europe travelling for a while, and she stayed at some of her relatives because she is German descent. And she said that they make this wonderful hot potato salad. They cook the potatoes, and then they chop them up hot into hunks, and then they chop up heaps of dandelion, and then they put lots of olive oil, crushed garlic, and salt. Just imagine that. Doesn't that sound yum? Now, those smooth, blandish potatoes covered with the delicious olive oil that makes anything taste nice, and that also calms down the garlic, and it also calms down the bitterness of the dandelion. So every mouthful you eat is mostly potato with that lovely oil on it, and salt, and a little garlic, and a little bit of dandelion. It's actually delicious. It sort of balances out to a delicious hot potato salad. Now, this lady suffered from iron problems. She said, I had no iron challenges when I was in Europe. She said, I think it's because I was eating the hot potato dandelion salad every day. Sorry, I can't give you amounts there. Yes? This is a German man, am I right? I forgot the vinegar. Well, I actually don't put vinegar on it. I like it just like that. But so I've got a confirmation that is a recipe from Germany. Yes, it is. So that's one way you can have it, because remember, it is bitter. You can slice them up finely, and you can just sprinkle them through a salad with your sweet lettuce. The other way you can have dandelion is you can use the root. Now, there's a book you can buy. It's by an Australian woman. It's called How I Can Use Herbs in My Everyday Life, and it's by an Isabel Shepherd. And it's a great book because her book has all the garden weeds in it. And she says that the dandelion root, now this is why I was glad I got the root. Now, that's not a very old plant, but the root is quite long. And she says, when you first make a garden, before you've got time to put all the fertilizer in it, plant dandelion in your garden. And she said the root can go to even 1 metre deep, and it'll break up the soil. So when I first moved where I'm living now, the house that I lived in, the hill had been cut into to be able to build the house. But what does that mean? My house is just on clay. So I took my grandchildren, my 3 little granddaughters, and we went on a dandelion hunt all through the grass in the property where the health centre is. And they would run, I found one, Grandma, and they'd find the little flowers sitting on top, because they just poke straight up. And when you see that flower, you dig deep, and we dug up the dandelions and we went and planted it all through my garden. So all through my garden is dandelion, because I wanted those roots to go very deep and break up the clay that my house was sit on. In fact, people look at my garden now and they don't know why it looks so good, because it is clay. But I've done a few things to it. That always helps. And I'll put wood chips on. Do you use wood chips? Wood chips are great. Do you know why? Wood chips cause the growth of a fungi called mycorrhiza. And mycorrhiza has hyphae that go out that pull nutrients from deep down in the soil into the soil where your plants are. Mycorrhiza. I think it's called... I think that's it. Mycorrhiza. It's a fungi. And it grows in wood chips. That's why wood chips are so great around your fruit trees. Put it as deep as you can. The weeds won't come. It'll keep the moisture there. But it'll encourage the growth of, or the development of mycorrhiza. I actually think the spelling's really wrong. So I'm going to try again. And I just realised what it is. It's mycorrhiza. That's it. You see, myco means fungi. Mycorrhiza.
Excuse me, could you tell me, would that be all right for a person that's had their liver, if she had cancer growth on her liver and had a lot of it removed?
Yeah.
Would that be all right?
Excellent, excellent. So she can use the leaves all through her salad, and she can go on a little hunt with her grandchildren to find the... Not many people will believe that you're digging up the dandelion and putting it in your garden. How many people are pulling it out of their garden? But it doesn't take over the garden. You know, all my flowers, they're all... In fact, I've got a strange garden. I've got roses, and I've got celery, and I've got kale, and I've got pansies, and I've got weeds that people think are weeds, all growing all through my garden. They're the gardens I love. Now, what you can also do, you can buy the dandelion root that's been roasted. So that's like a dandelion coffee. And you can buy a delicious drink in the health food shop, and we sell it at Misty, called chai dandelion. A lot of people will drink chai tea, but the tea, of course, has the tannin and the caffeines in it. But chai dandelion is a delicious drink. A lot of people don't like herb teas because they say they're tasteless and bland. Not chai dandelion. Chai dandelion is a delicious drink, and it has a whole lot of herbs and spices with it to give it that beautiful flavour. So you can have the fresh dandelions scattered through your salads, or you can make your hot potato salad with lots of dandelion in it, the leaves, or you can buy the dandelion root roasted and have that as a hot drink. Now, I've got a couple of herbs that I have not got here, but I will talk about, and one is aloe vera. I'm sure everyone's familiar with aloe vera. Every home should have a pot of aloe vera. And I know that aloe vera doesn't like frost, and I think you have frosts here. But you can grow it in a pot. We have frost at our place. And what you've got to do is, you know, an aloe vera plant will give off little pups. You've got to plant a little pup there, and you've got to plant a little pup there and a little pup around there, and you've got to find out where it's happy. And when you find a place that it is happy, then you grow a whole crop of it. Now, why would you grow aloe vera? Aloe vera has a growth stimulant in it. So aloe vera stimulates rapid new cells. So that's good news, isn't it? And aloe vera is a little bit slimy. We know it's a little bit slimy. So it's very good at coating, soothing and healing the lining of the gut. So great if you've got sore throat, great if you've got stomach ulcer, fantastic for irritable bowel, Crohn's disease. The inside of your gastrointestinal tract is like the inside of your mouth. It's sort of a bit slimy, and aloe vera is like that. So how do we eat it? Well, I'll tell you a bit of a funny story. It's an embarrassing story. but I'll tell it to you because it gives an illustration. I was in Mount Isa and I was lecturing. And I'd been travelling a lot. And when you travel a lot, you're breathing in a lot of plane fumes. And I got a very sore throat. And I went to bed this night and my throat was very sore, and I thought if I can just fall asleep, I'll be fine. I was having a bit of salt, I was having water. And I woke in the middle of the night and I could not even swallow. It was like razor blades. My throat was like razor blades. And I lay there thinking, what am I going to do? You know, when you've got so much, the pain is such that you can't sleep. But some pain's not too bad and you fall asleep, then you don't even know you've got pain. Now, the house I was living in had a huge aloe vera patch. I was, there was an upstairs place, but I was downstairs, and I knew it was outside, and it was probably, my door was there, a little path, and then there was this huge aloe vera patch, and aloe vera plants this wide, huge big aloe vera plants. The old ones are the most potent. They're the ones that are the best. And all I could think of was, if I can get that aloe vera gel in my throat, it'll bring me relief. So just picture me with my nightie on and a head torch, creeping around 3 o'clock in the morning, and there it was, and I had a knife, and I just cut it. I cut the stem, then I cut it down the middle, and I just ate it. Sounds very primitive, doesn't it? It was a very thick leaf, so it was very fleshy. Oh, and it was a little bitter, but I did not care because my throat was so sore. Do you know, it brought almost instant relief.
So you ate the whole lot?
No, I did not eat the whole lot. I ate the fleshy centre, that fleshy centre. So I'm here to testify. As you can see, I'm still alive. I just got my teeth into that flesh. Yes, it's not very civilised and it's very primitive. And I wonder what someone would have thought if they'd walked past and seen this lady in her nightie. I told you it was a bit embarrassing. I went back to bed with a relieved throat. Now, it wasn't totally gone, but that real razor blade had just been taken off, and I slept that night. The best leaves are the biggest leaves. So what you can do, of course, when you're civilised, you can heavily peel the leaf. Now you want to heavily peel the leaf because just under the leaf is a yellow sap. If you're familiar with aloe vera, you'll be familiar with that yellow sap. That yellow sap is an irritant to the gut, so you don't want the yellow sap. If you've got constipation, you might like the yellow sap because it certainly can stimulate movement down there. And so you cut off that thick, you do a thick cut of the leaf so you get the yellow slime underneath, and then you're just left with the hunks of clear aloe vera juice, or the aloe vera gel. So when 2 days later, I gave a lecture on the herbs, I got some of those big leaves and I heavily peeled them, and I just had little sections of the gel, and I invited the people to come up and have a taste. And you just chew it a little bit in your mouth and, yes, it slimes down your throat. But that sliminess is what the lining of the gastrointestinal tract loves. So what we do now at Misty Mountain Health Retreat, because I thought, how can we use this aloe vera? It is so good. Now there's a polysaccharide, and polysaccharide means many sugar. There is a special type of polysaccharide that is in the aloe vera that stimulates cell-to-cell communication. And cell-to-cell communication is important because when cell-to-cell communication is working as it should, it won't allow cancer cells to get a hold on the body. Cancer cells get a hold on the body when cell-to-cell communication has actually been compromised and the body doesn't know there's a problem cell there. Can you see that? But if cell-to-cell communication is vibrant, then a cancer cell basically can't get a hold on the body because the communication system says there's a problem there. White blood cells deal with him. Have you heard of Manatech? Manatech is a company that sells a whole lot of products. All their products are based on aloe vera. and they push the growth stimulant, and they push that these products help with cell-to-cell communication, which helps to keep check on cancer cells and even turn around cancer cells. So that's why Manatech push that. And basically all their products are from aloe vera, and that's what aloe vera does. That polysaccharide stimulates cell-to-cell communication, but the growth stimulant of the aloe vera, and also coat, soothe and heal the lining. So they're your three specifics with the aloe vera. So what we do, and I got this message out of Isabel Shepherd's book, How I Can Use Herbs in My Everyday Life, and you cut one of the big outer leaves of the aloe vera, and then you sit it on a plate. And you sit it on a plate for 1 hour, and all the yellow slime drains out. You'll see after an hour that pool of yellow slime. I cut the bottom off, and then I slice it so that each slice is a few millimetres apart, and then you'll put, one big leaf into a 2-litre jug of water, and you let that sit, and you drink the water. And if it has a little bit of an aloe vera taste, you put a sprig of mint in, that makes it even nicer. And you leave it there, and after about 6 hours you just start drinking it. And so that's what I drink a lot at Misty Mountain, is the aloe vera juice. And we have carafes of water for our guests, and we always have several carafes of aloe vera. It looks really pretty, is the slices of thin aloe vera in the water. It does have a little bit of an aloe vera taste, but I don't mind that. And if you mind it, you can put a squeeze of lemon in, or you can put a sprig of mint in. After 24 hours, all the water's drunk, you can fill it up with water again. So you can actually use that for 48 hours. But what we do at Misty Mountain, we cut the leaf the night before. The staff slice it up and put it in the water, and then in the morning our guests all get a glass of aloe vera water with a squeeze of lemon in it. Now that aloe vera does something else too. It has a natural probiotic in it. So I never wash my aloe vera leaf, because B12 is an airborne bacteria. So none of these have been washed. So I only wash it if it's got mud or maybe manure on it, or I'd be very cautious if you picked a plant that may have had a dog do something on it, or the council spray it. So, I wouldn't eat that, but then of course that must be washed. But this fresh from the garden with all the rain yesterday, there is no need to wash it. B12 is an airborne bacteria, so if I eat all that, and I just might eat that at lunchtime unless you'd like it and you can eat it for your lunch, I'm getting a little bit of B12, because B12 is an airborne bacteria. So on the aloe vera, I've just picked it. There is no need to wash it. I sit it, let the yellow slime come out, cut the bottom, and then slice it and put it in the water. There's B12 in that water.
But you don't peel it.
No, I don't peel it. If I'm just going to eat the gel, I peel it. But there's no need to peel it because the yellow slime has come out, and I cut it all up. So in that water, you're getting all the properties of the aloe vera. Do you know after 24 hours, the water's getting a little thick? I don't mind. But you're getting that nice slime going down through your gut, and you're getting aloe vera, and you're getting a bit of B12, and you're also getting some probiotics, some natural probiotic. You've probably noticed that I love remedies that are very cheap. Now, last night I talked about the Anna's Wild Yam Cream. That's about $50 a jar, but it lasts 3 months. That's still pretty cheap, isn't it? I know people that spend $200 a month on supplements. So $50 over 3 months, that's not hard. When you save money on these things, you can spend more money on good quality clothes that are made out of natural fibre, good quality shoes that are made out of natural fibre, and you can also spend more money on organic fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts and seeds. You see, it's not, as my husband always says, it's not how much money you've got, it's what you do with it, how you organise it around. So that's what you can do with aloe vera. Now, a friend of mine, she drains the aloe vera, and then she slices the aloe vera and she puts it on trays in the dehydrator. And when it's totally dried out, she blends it and puts it in a jar, and she travels with it, and she puts a spoonful in her water. So that's something else that you can do with aloe vera. Well, that just about covers my herbs, unless there's any questions. Yes. What about dock? Yeah. Now dock hasn't any great specifics, except that it's a green herb, so it's got that great chlorophyll in it. It's almost got a bit of a flavour like your sorrel. But dock's a great green herb, and you could correct me, my German friends. Do you eat dock in Germany? No, not dock so much. Yeah. See, not dock. It's if you look in the herb books, it's not a great specific.
But it does take over. You know, if you leave the seeds, of course.
Oh, it can take over. I wouldn't let this take over. Whereas the dandelion, it really behaves itself. It sort of keeps. But I know in a very good soil, you can get a dandelion leaf that long and that fat when it's in good soil. So the dock, we do sometimes put it in the green drinks. You could put it in broth for a bit more green, and but it's not as powerful as the stinging nettle. The stem of the stinging nettle is the antidote for the sting of the stinging nettle. Oh, well, that's good to remember. Problem is, it's a bit hard to get to the stem. Yeah. But that's good to know. We live in a rainforest and we have stinging trees, and the stinging tree is a very bad sting, and the antidote for the leaves, being stung by the leaves of the stinging tree, and they're like this, is you scrape the tree and get the sap, and that'll do that. So I guess that's similar to the stinging nettle. So the milkweed, this one. Oh, there we are, the milkweed. Okay, I'll try that next time. So the milk from the milkweed, the radium, will also negate the sting of the stinging nettle. That's good to know, yes?
Into a blender and make them into a smoothie.
Could you put them into a blender? What we do at Misty Mountain Health Retreat, when someone comes to us wanting help to conquer cancer, we will put the edible greens. We put this. We actually put the stinging nettle because it's not bitter. We put that. We might put a little bit of that. We don't do the dandelion because it's so bitter. And I'll do tips from the pumpkin plant. We also will do Farmer's Friend. You know Farmer's Friend, sticky beaks? You know when you go in the garden and you get all those sticky things on? It's called sticky beaks, yeah, Farmer's Friend. So all your edible greens that aren't too bitter, we blend. We usually blend with water. Say 4 cups of greens and 4 cups of water, we blend it, and then we strain it, and we put it in little bottles. And so it's dark green water. And we usually put either mint or lemongrass in, so it doesn't taste too bad. And our guests who come to us to conquer cancer, they drink a litre of that in the day. So that's part of their water. So that's what we do. Some people do green drinks, green smoothies, I should say, and they'll have almond milk and a banana and chia seeds, and so they blend maybe some protein powder, and then they'll put kale leaves in, and they'll drink that. So that's there are whole books on green smoothies. Some of our guests, they're too busy in the morning to eat, so they just make green smoothies. So they're quite popular. Yes? Well, you can eat it, but if you're finding that hard, you just rub it between your hands and get the juice out. That's probably more civilised. You can roast it yourself, yep. But as you can see by this one, you wouldn't get much out of that one. You'd have to have one that's a few years old to make your own dandelion root, yes?
So you said kale. What are the benefits of kale?
What are the benefits of kale? Kale is a lovely dark green leafy vegetable. It does help the liver. It's not as potent as the dandelion, but it does. And being green, high in chlorophyll, it's a blood and tissue cleanser. All your greens are high alkalizers. So it's basically all the benefits of the greens, so it does help with the liver. And you can throw kale into soups and stews, and there's a wonderful kale salad. And how you make kale salad, because kale's a bit tough, well, you finely slice the kale, and you've got a big pile of finely sliced kale, and then you sprinkle it with salt, Celtic salt of course, or Himalayan salt, and then you get your hands in and you rub. And you rub like this, and you rub the salt all through the finely sliced kale, and it limps. It almost looks like you've steamed it. And once you've done that, you've got about half the amount of kale you started with, and then you chop tomato and chop avocado and throw it through. It's delicious. And the kale is now tender, and yet it's a raw dish. So that's something you can try. That's probably my favourite way to eat kale, is kale salad. Looks like I'm going to have to make it for tomorrow so you can taste it.
Do you put anything besides avocado?
A tomato. But it looks beautiful because it's now bright green, and the creamy light green of the avocado and the bright red of the tomato. It looks beautiful, but the tomato and the avocado, taste-wise, go beautiful with the kale. Yes, if you cook it, that's a very New Zealand word, wee. Cook it a wee bit. cook it a little bit, and put a little lemon and salt. Yeah, it's very nice. And if I'm doing a soup or a stew, I'll tear it up or cut it up lightly and put it in the last 5 minutes so it just limps, and that's very nice too. How much time have I got? Because I could spend a lot of time on comfrey. Comfrey is a remarkable herb. And comfrey has a growth stimulant, so don't put it in your garden. It will just take over because it's got a growth stimulant. Now maybe down here in Invercargill, with your cool winter months and lots of frost, maybe it won't get out of control, because in the winter all the leaves go and the root remains. But in the early spring, the comfrey shoots up. Now comfrey contains a growth stimulant, so wherever you apply comfrey, it's going to stimulate rapid healing. Its nickname is knit bone because of its ability to knit bone, and it can knit tendons and ligaments and tissues. In the spring and in the summer, the active nutrients from the comfrey are found in the new leaves. But in the autumn and in the winter, all the healing properties go down to the root. So if you use comfrey in the winter, you use the root. If you use comfrey in the spring and summer, you use the leaves. The smaller leaves are very, very potent. Now there've been messages coming out through the media that comfrey's dangerous. Have you heard that? And it will cause liver damage. Well, in her book, How I Can Use Herbs in My Everyday Life, Isabel Shepherd, she gives a whole section on comfrey, and she tells the story of a farmer who bought an old cow, female cow, from the abattoirs. The cow was old, could hardly walk, and he was going to experiment on this old cow because the cow was going to die anyway. So all the farmer did was give it comfrey leaves. and he wilted them. They'll wilt, within an hour of picking, so the cow could eat more. The cow got stronger and stronger and bigger and started prancing around the paddock and started to produce milk. And he said the cream on that milk was about 1/3 of the milk. Why did he do it? To prove. See, they say that comfrey will cause liver damage. That's all this cow ate. Didn't even eat any grass, just the comfrey. Incredible experiment.
Sheep will eat it too.
Sheep will eat it too, and sheep will not eat a plant that will hurt them, will they? It's a remarkable herb because it has a growth stimulant in it. It's got a growth stimulant, it's anti-inflammatory, so it gets the inflammation down, and it's a lubricant. So it's excellent on bones. We had a lady, and I'll make this story very short, she broke her leg, she broke her tibia and her fibula, and she had a crushed knee. And we knew it was broken because when we found her, she'd fallen off a bike. She's 56. The bone was not sticking through the skin, but it was poking up like a tent. Anyway, we had a guy there that knew bones, and he said, "Hold on, Katie," and he realigned it. The ambulance came, took her away, and anyway, she was in hospital 3 weeks, and they would not operate. They were going to do pins and plates on her because her leg was so swollen. And her husband was getting frustrated with this, so he brought her home, and we brought her into my lounge room. And it was the winter, so we grated up the comfrey root every night. Every night we grated up the comfrey root. We made a poultice. You grate up the root, and it goes like chewing gum. You see, it's got this lubricant in it. And we'd make a poultice like I showed you the other day, and then I'd pour a little bit of boiling water on it to soften it a bit and warm it and put it on the leg. And I put it around the knee and also where the break was in the tibia and the fibula. And we would pray over it. We'd say, "Father in heaven, we don't know what we're doing here, but you do." Do you know that lady totally healed? It was incredible. She did not get out of bed for, I think it was 5 weeks. And we kept it straight, but every night we'd put the comfrey poultice on it. And then after 6 weeks, she started to walk with crutches. And then I think it was another 2 weeks, and she started gingerly walk with a walking frame. And it was probably about 3 months, and she was running. Now, they told her she'd probably never walk properly again because it was such a serious break. Now, that was probably the most serious thing that we have ever done. And the doctor, when she went back to the doctor, he said it mustn't have been broken. But there was an x-ray that showed it, and the bone was nearly through because it's unbelievable, isn't it? It isn't when you realise what comfrey does. Remember the 3 things? It has a growth stimulant, so whether it be bone or tissue, or tendon or ligament or skin. Growth stimulant, it's a lubricant, excellent for joints. And it also reduces the inflammation. So I told you that if I was going to talk about comfrey, I'd need a bit of time. It's a remarkable, remarkable herb. So we pick the leaves in the spring and the summer, and I dry them till they're totally dried out in a warm oven, and then I pound them up to a powder, and I do that 3 times, so I've got 50 leaves. So in my jar I've got 150 leaves. They come down to a fine powder. The jar's this big, I fill it 1/3 full, then I fill it with olive oil and I shake it and I let it sit for 2 months. And after 2 months, I strain it into a double saucepan and then I warm beeswax, I mix them together and pour it into jars. And you can ring Misty Mountain Health Retreat and get a jar of comfrey cream. It's dark green.
When do you get time to do anything else?
Oh, that's one of my hobbies. Yes?
Bones have been broken and have healed, presumably, and now you've got arthritis. Would comfrey do anything for that, or would you have something else?
Yes, comfrey would help, but for arthritis, the ginger poultice will take the inflammation out. Yes?
So when you were telling the story about this broken bone, you applied that every day for 3 months?
Oh, yes, yeah. Every day. Even when it looked like it was probably healed, we just still did it. Yep. And it's remarkable how it healed. But I was on a plane one day and I was next to an orthopaedic surgeon. How I discovered this was because I'm platinum frequent flyer. I'm always up the front of the plane. So this guy was next to me and he had a suit on and he had a book in there and it said, Healing at a Cellular Level. So when I sat down, I said, that looks like an interesting book. And he looked at me and said, who are you? I said, I'm Barbara O'Niйл. What do you do? I said, I'm a nutritionist and a naturopath. And he went, I said, and who are you? He said, well, I'm Dr. Such and Such and I'm an orthopaedic surgeon. And I went, Anyway, now we're on a level ground, we began to talk. He said, you know, before we orthopaedic surgeons, bones healed. Bones healed. The orthopaedic surgeon can't heal a bone, the body heals the bone. So basically what the comfrey did, and I think if we didn't do the comfrey, I think it probably would have still healed, but not as quickly. The comfrey boosted up and I was giving her high nutrition. In fact, this orthopaedic surgeon said to me, do you know, half of the surgeries we do are unnecessary. Wow. I said, well, what I do is I teach people to look after their bodies so they don't get to you. He said, good. He said, I don't do unnecessary surgeries, but he said, many do. He said, they've got to pay the bills. Oh, think about that. So how nice if we can keep our body strong and healthy. I said to him, well, if I get a broken bone, I'll come and see you. He said, I won't see you. Because he knew. He said, I got these women and their knees are breaking up. He said, they're very overweight. He said, they insist, so I do knee replacement. He said, I don't know how that knee's going to ever heal with all that weight on it. He said, we have a hard job. And I agree, they do have a hard job. They do the best they can, but how nice if we can actually give our body the conditions so it's strong and healthy, and if there is an injury, it will heal. And these herbs help, and the poultices help, and the hydrotherapy helps. Remember, it is the body and the body alone that can heal. I thank God for the healing powers of the body, but I also thank Him for these herbs. And I thank Him for the poultices, and I thank Him for the water therapies. So I'm going to give everyone a break now. It is 25 to 11, and we're going to come back at 11:15. And when we come back, we're going to be doing the sodium bicarbonate wrap.